Thanks for joining us. Today on Open Studio, we are talking all things food security, urban farming, nutrition greening, and with Gareth Haysom and Nazeer Sonday of the Philippine Horticulture Area Food and Farming Campaign. So before we went to the break, we were just getting ready to start about food security. And sometimes it's hard for people to understand. Can you guys give us a pretty easily digestible explanation?
No, I'm no expert, but I think for me, the one thing to be clear, food security for me is far more than just hunger. It's often assumed that people who can't get food are food insecure, but I think food insecurity spans a far broader section of society. So forgive me if I get a little bit academic here, but I think the Food and Agriculture Organization lists 4 dimensions of food security. Making sure that there's enough food available, so the production side and that sort of thing. Making sure that that food is accessible, so people either have the funds or can acquire that food in different ways. Then the question of utilization, so how nutritious is the food, but also are people able to eat food that they want to eat, food that's culturally appropriate, and how does that food add to health and wellness and general sort of developmental needs. And the 4th dimension is a question of stability. So do we know what the food prices are going to be? Are they going to be stable? Is there a way, or if food prices are fluctuating dramatically or food availability is fluctuating, what does that mean? And in the context of all of those, if those 4 all align, someone in all likelihood there is enough food available, they can buy the food they want, they're able to get the nutrition they want, and there's a stable food system, then someone is food secure. And that then plays out across incomes, across a whole set of areas. So someone in Cape Town might be food secure, living in a wealthy neighborhood, but there are others who maybe not be food secure and maybe really battling to get the kind of food that they want. And so there are these different challenges. They may be full, but they're not getting the right nutrition, or they might not be able to afford and buy the food that they might want to buy. So, yeah.
So for some, they would suggest that then urban agriculture, nutritional greening would be the solution, naturally. But from some of the things that I've read that you've written, you don't necessarily agree with that. What are the downsides to urban agriculture?
I think, for me, the main downside of urban agriculture, and certainly I think Nazeer probably shares this, but not to put words into your mouth, is I think that urban agriculture is not the silver bullet. If there are people who are not able to get the food that they need, if we can't enable the sort of access to food, that urban agriculture is one of many things that needs to take place in order to enable that food access. I think it's too convenient for officials, government officials, corporate sort of executives, well-meaning sort of development agencies to say we're going to go and plant a garden and have a photo op with a community and say we've ticked that box of addressing food security. I think for me the fundamental question is to ask what is wrong with the system that makes those people food insecure in the first place? And without understanding that, sort of urban agriculture is that. It is certainly a very important part of a wider food security strategy, but it can't be seen as a silver bullet for want of that.
So I also would imagine whether you may have some of the similar shared thinking at the PHA, employing 2,000 people, providing 50 to 60% of the fruit and vegetables, or the vegetables for sure, that we consume here in Cape Town. That must be hard to hear. I mean, tell me about that perspective.
Well, from our perspective as farmers in the Philippine horticulture area, we're under threat of being annihilated by planning. That for us, food security means access to land. You know, and if you don't have access to land, you cannot grow the food that you need to grow for your family in the first instance, but also to supply consumers in and around in your area with food. So land is a key question around food security for us, and it's because we are under threat, and we understand that land, without land, in fact, land itself is playing out in the whole country as being under threat. You know, we've lost, over the last 30 years, 2 million hectares of high potential agricultural land, to mining, to urban development, to game farming and all non-agricultural activities, right? And this is the size of the Kruger National Park, right? And so if we continue in this path, we won't have the land available to grow our food. And that's a huge food security issue. and it's playing itself out in our area. So our struggle is part of a bigger struggle to protect agricultural land. In fact, it's such an important issue that the National Department of Agriculture is putting a bill in. In fact, it developed a bill in which it is putting this into Parliament for approval. And this bill is about protecting agricultural land and the ways in which to do that.
And then again, I suppose for people who really wouldn't necessarily understand the connection, what the PHA is working hard to preserve and conserve is not just about land, it's also about water.
Yes.
So tell us about the connection there between that particular area and the water use.
Well, you see, that became very clear for us, because when we are faced with a drought, we understand the value of our area, right? In that we are not affected by drought because we are almost drought-proof. We have an amazing underground aquifer that farmers have been using for the last 130 years. And we will continue to use this. And this aquifer is such a valuable resource that we wanted to understand it better as farmers. So we held 2 Cape Flats Aquifer seminars in which we invited researchers and scientists and all kinds of people who are concerned about the aquifer and who have knowledge about the aquifer to share with us, the farmers and the broader community in the city about the value of the aquifer. And it so turns out that our farming area is so productive because of the aquifer. And even a City of Cape Town study has said that our farming area is irreplaceable within 120 kilometers of the city.
That's fantastic. So just to take us back, just in a quick explanation, what's the difference between an aquifer and a dam?
Mm-hmm. Well, when we've come to understand that an aquifer is an underground lake, but it doesn't look like a lake per se. It's more like a sponge, right? Sponge holds lots of water, and this is not very well understood generally. That because you don't see it, you don't know it's there, right? And we know now how valuable it is, because actually, it's far better than a dam. Because actually, you don't need an above surface area that you need to set aside for the building of a dam. Unlike a dam, the water in the aquifer doesn't evaporate, right? So it holds more water, and you can use that water. And actually, that water hydrates the landscape, Okay. So that's basically the difference between an aquifer and an above ground dam.
Excellent. That's a perfect place for us to go to another break. And when we come back, talking food security, land use, and water use, we're going to hear some uplifting stories about how urban agriculture in an African context is actually beneficial. Stay with us.